Hello viewers, welcome to my lecture on Dr. C.S. Lakshmi, or Ambai as she is popularly known in the world of Tamil literature. Ambai is the nom de plume or pseudonym or pen name of C.S. Lakshmi. C.S. Lakshmi is an independent researcher, a novelist, a short story writer, and the founder-director of Sparrow. Sparrow is the sound and picture archives for research on women. It is India's first archives organization dedicated to documenting and recording the contributions of various Indian women writers, painters, musicians, photographers, and artists. Dr. C.S. Lakshmi was born in 1944 in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. She spent her childhood and youth in Bombay and Bangalore. She completed her BA and MA from colleges in Bangalore and Bombay. She completed her PhD in American Foreign Policy from JNU or Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. Even before she went on to do her doctorate, she was established as a writer. She worked for some time in schools and colleges in Tamil Nadu. While working at a school in Tamil Nadu, she was dismissed from her job because she questioned certain principles or certain practices that were observed by the management of that particular school. She scolded one of her students for writing a love letter to her classmate pledging lifelong allegiance. This was something that was against C.S. Lakshmi's very feminist stance of maintaining individuality and chasing after one's own dreams. So after she was dismissed from this job, she went on to Delhi to do her doctorate. When she arrived in Delhi, she had already published her first short story at Nandi Hills, which was sometime in her teenage years, and she had already published a novel also, Andimalai or Twilight, which was published in 1966. And the story that established her reputation, the groundbreaking short story which established her literary reputation, was Siragugal Muriyum or Wings Get Broken, which she wrote in 1967. Now this particular story was very difficult for her to get the story published, and finally it was rejected by so many magazines that she was wondering whether there was something was wrong with the story. So she spoke to the editor of a Tamil literary magazine, and he told her that there was nothing wrong with her story. She had been sending it to the wrong publications. Finally, the story was published in 1967 in a Tamil literary journal. With this, her reputation as a creative writer, as a short story writer, was established. She continued with her creative writing along with her documenting of women's experiences. Her own experience of failing to get her story published made her realize that nobody was interested in women's stories, in women's experiences. So she felt that she must document and record the various contributions by women across India. Otherwise, she felt that all these stories would be lost. They would be consigned to the dustbin of history. And that is what motivated her to begin Sparrow. Sparrow, or Sound and Picture Archives for Research on Women in India, is an organization that is dedicated to documenting and recording interviews and writings by various creative artists. It also has its own library, and when Sparrow began with funding from a foreign organization in her small one-bedroom flat in Bombay, she was the driving force behind this organization. Today, it has its own premises, and it is India's first archives which is dedicated to documenting the voices of women in India. Now coming to her career as a writer, particularly this relatively unknown story called Gifts. This particular story is prescribed for the final semester students of UG students of Manonmaniam Sundarnar University, and it was actually quite difficult to get the text of the story on the net. Now, this story revolves around an independent researcher's meeting with two women. She is writing a report on the life and experiences of ordinary women in southern Tamil Nadu. The name of the narrator is not revealed throughout the story. She comes to Tirunelveli from Delhi, and she is met at the railway station by a man called Chidambaram. When the story begins, we find her standing in a very busy bus stand and absorbing all the different sights and sounds and cacophony that is symbolic of a bus stand. So Chidambaram arrives with her bus ticket, and he takes her with him to one of his acquaintances' houses. They walk past the Tamrabarni river, and Chidambaram asks her if she would like to have a bath on the banks of the river. The narrator is extremely self-conscious, and she is puzzled by the whole logistics of having a bath on the banks of the river in full public view, and she refuses the offer. So they arrive at Anni's house. Anni could probably be Chidambaram's elder sister or his acquaintance. She is a 50-year-old woman with dark hair, and she warmly welcomes the narrator. The narrator enters the house, and then Anni tells her that she can have her bath in one corner of the kitchen. The narrator feels extremely self-conscious about having a bath in full public view. It's not public view, but still there is another person in the room, and she is very self-conscious. But Anni seems to be unperturbed by the narrator's self-consciousness, and she goes on preparing her doshas, while the narrator somehow or the other manages to have a quick bath and dress up. Meanwhile, Anni also offers to rub her back for her, and the offer is rejected by the narrator, and Anni keeps on talking and making doshas. She tells the narrator that she started cooking when she was 10 years old. She got married when she was 14, and her husband was 6 years older than her, and from then on she has been cooking for so many people. She has made so many doshas in her lifetime. And then she starts picking out memories from her past, and the narrator makes her talk, and Anni reveals that her greatest dream, her most important desire has been to see the sea. Long ago, when she had fallen sick, her father had taken her to the Tiruchendur temple in Tuticorin district. This temple is dedicated to Lord Muruga, and it is on the Bay of Bengal coastline. So they arrived there, and it was Anni's first glimpse of the sea. She fell in love with the sea. She yearned to go and play in the sea, but her father scolded her, and she could never fulfill her dream of seeing the sea. So that is one of her greatest dreams, which has not been fulfilled so far. Then she tells another story of when she was a little girl, and she used to walk past a bookstore. This particular bookstore had a painting by some European artist displayed on the shelf, and the painting had it depicted a beach on a moonlit night, and there was a boat, and this little girl, the Anni of our story, actually fell in love with the painting. So whenever she went across the store, she would stand outside and gaze at the painting. One day, the bookshop owner, he came out and he asked her what she looked at, and she explained that she loved the painting. He told her that it was a painting by some European painter, and he gifted it to her. It was a most wonderful gift for her. She had never seen the sea, but she had a painting which depicted the sea, and it was a very happy memory for her. So after talking for some time with Annie, the narrator leaves for the next leg of her journey. Chidambaram comes to pick her up and he hands over her tickets. He had already booked her ticket for the journey, and he wonders if she will be able to make the journey by herself. She is very confident. She tells him that she had travelled alone all the way from Delhi, so she'll be able to manage this part of the journey by herself. She boards the bus and she arrives at her destination quite late at night, where she is met by Ganapati. Ganapati takes her to his house, where they are welcomed by Chandra, Ganapati's younger sister. The young girl, she prepares food for the narrator. She serves her tea and they start talking. The narrator tells her that she is writing a report on women's lives, their dreams, aspirations and desires, and she asks Chandra if Chandra would like to accompany her to Delhi. Chandra says that she has never even visited her hometown. She has very rarely been out of her house, only on very rare occasions when she went to the temple or for a festival or to see the cinema. Her greatest desire was to be able to walk freely on the street or the lane outside her home. She wanted to see her hometown. She had not managed to do that till now. Her movements were restricted. She did not have freedom of movement. Her life revolved around her household tasks, watching serials or reading the magazine, and she wanted to go out, but patriarchy reigned supreme and she could never step out of her house without the permission of others. She yearned to go out to restaurants or hotels and have food there. She wanted to buy a sari for herself. She wanted to choose a sari for herself and buy it. And then the narrator asks her what kind of a man she would like to marry. She says that she would love to marry a man who cared about her. But her greatest desire was, she thought that she would get freedom when she married and she would be able to travel around her hometown. She would be able to travel to different places. She would be able to move out of her very restricted and limited life. The narrator talks to her for some more time and then she departs for her journey back to Delhi. On her return, she is given two parcels, one by Chidambaram and the other by Ganapati. One is a packet of doshas. The other is the famous delicious Tirunelveli halwa. The narrator is very happy. She is warmed by this very kind gesture of two women who have never been allowed the freedom to move out of their houses. C.S. Lakshmi has always used irony, subtle irony and subtle humor to talk about the various contradictions in our life. She is an independent researcher writing a report on women in southern Tamil Nadu. She has travelled all the way from Delhi all alone, and she meets two women who have been confined to the four walls of their house. Two women who have simple, ordinary desires which will probably never be satisfied. Her stories deal with sensitivity, with the ordinary desires and dreams of women. The story leaves us with a pang of sadness, thinking about these two ordinary simple women and their unfulfilled desires. Thank you.